Last Wednesday, during Children and Youth Services estimates, the Minister repeatedly denied there were plans to cut funding to foster parents of special needs children. She was surrounded at the time by 9 senior ministry staff, none of whom uttered a peep about the planned cuts that the NDP subsequently discovered and reported on yesterday. My question is for the Minister. How can Albertans trust your claims of protecting vulnerable children when you clearly can't keep up with what's going on in your own ministry?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the member is correct. At Committee of Supply, I made it very clear that my understanding was that there wouldn't be any reduction in foster support services or resources, and that, Mr. Speaker, was because of the direction that I had given 3 weeks previously, 2 to 3 weeks previously, not to reduce this, the supports or services or funding to foster care. And, Mr. Speaker, I can assure you that I realize too, and knowing that the buck stops at my desk, there are at times things that are not understood in the way that they're put forward, and this is just one of those cases.
Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, notwithstanding that the Premier seems to believe it's inappropriate to discuss some of these contradictions in public, given that the Minister has repeatedly assured the House that cuts to her ministry would not affect families when, in fact, that was exactly what was planned at the time, how can the Minister fail to see the absurdity of her assurances and refuse to admit that cuts to her ministry will negatively impact the level of care provided to Albertans' children?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as you know, Committee of Supply is a 3-hour meeting. We did discuss this ministry at that meeting for 3 hours, and in particular the area of child intervention. As I let this member know and other members at the committee, I trust what my staff has brought forward as to how the change and the shift in practice of the way that child intervention is occurring in the field through the good work of 1,600 frontline workers, Mr. Speaker, I trust that. If I see it's differently, I've assured you, Mr. Speaker, in the Assembly previously, but I'm monitoring this closely. I will go back through the right processes if more funding is required.
The Honourable Member.
Well, Mr. Speaker, given that this ministry has been plagued by repeated cases of negligent treatment toward foster families and their children, and given that the minister's tarnished credibility grows darker each time she's asked to take responsibility for a foolish policy she doesn't know anything about, when will the minister launch an independent public inquiry into the foster care system and do away with the political leash she maintains on the
Honourable
advocate?
Minister.
You know, Mr. Speaker, it's always interesting how somebody can take and make a quantum leap to or into a public inquiry simply because there is a direction from me as the Minister not to cut resources or supports or funding to foster care, and especially for children with special needs. And an individual in the field, Mr. Speaker, did not follow through with that direction. And now we should have a public inquiry of the whole system. The answer to that is categorically no.